The community need around domestic violence was extremely high, resulting in the direct service providers needing to be able to focus on the immediate needs of those that they're serving, thus creating a demand for a group to be looking at the macro level of domestic violence across the community.
And I think what we really felt needed to happen was dramatic change, and so we needed a way to make it big and broad and bold and loud.
Back in the late 1990s, there were a lot of service providers in the area of domestic violence doing great work across the city of Indianapolis, but not a lot of coordination.
The Domestic Violence Network has been all about trying to pull all of the various organizations together that are so committed to this important cause and leverage each other's resources and really kind of be the old 1 + 1 = 3 effect, doing even more work in this important issue in our community.
So a number of leaders came to me after I was elected mayor and suggested that we work together and that the city government get involved in helping to both create and endorse the first community-wide plan of the Domestic Violence Network and really try to bring more awareness around the issues of domestic violence and also more encouragement of people to collaborate. And I think as I look back on it, that was one of the great successes of that time.
We decided that as the work was continuing, there needed to be some stronger staff support for that initiative so that some of the things that they were talking about could be pushed forward by professional staff as they had jobs to go back to working on the front lines with clients. And so the decision was made to create an actual staff for the Domestic Violence Network, and that was very important in having it be a more structured organization with more strategic goals and objectives so that we could really work toward meeting the needs of the community.
Our mission is to engage the community to end domestic violence through advocacy, education, and collaboration. We do this work through our community-wide plans, which we just launched the 4th community-wide plan, Intersections. We also educate community members on the dynamics of domestic violence, how to recognize and respond to domestic violence. We host an advocates group on the first Tuesday of every month where we provide best practice training to our advocates network. And we also educate our youth on how to recognize and respond to teen dating violence, how to have a healthy relationship, and what consent looks like.
And Coburn Place, Safe Haven, and the Domestic Violence Network are still working very closely together. 20 years of rich history and still really bound together in the passion for this work.
During my time at Domestic Violence Network, I saw the value of the advocates group and the individuals coming together and having conversations they wouldn't otherwise have had. And so I think just by naturally putting people in the same room, it just creates an impact that you just don't get without that platform. I think DVN has it.
There were billboards everywhere. You could drive down the street and it was really, I guess, it was inspiring, encouraging to see a billboard and go, oh, hey, we're making progress. We're reaching people. And then there were placards on the buses, and you might be behind a bus and you would see a placard on the bus. And you're reaching, people are reading this. They may not come up and say anything right away, but it gets through. That kind of visual image gets through to people.
The advocates group is just outstanding. All the advocates really, really love that group. I think that the efforts in the schools have been really well received, and that's something that's very needed.
One of the projects that I think was so successful for DVN was the Power of Images project, which really humanized domestic violence, and it took the focus off of the violence that was committed and put it on the life that was lost.
And it was a life-changing project for me to meet those families and to be part of their experience in a really small way, but to give them a voice and to share their loved ones with the community in the hopes that it could be avoided, and this crime of domestic violence and this tragic loss that it steals from us can hopefully be prevented one day.
The community-wide plan has been one of their really stellar projects that they've worked on.
The point of that plan was to use all of the services that were already in existence, identify gaps where there weren't enough services, fill those gaps so that the continuum of care for a person who is reaching out for help from a domestic violence relationship could have that access.
As I began to meet the people, the providers who had dedicated themselves personally and professionally to helping people who were survivors of domestic violence, to helping people find a way out of the terrible situations that we're in, it really buoyed my spirits. It really made me even a stronger believer in the basic goodness of the people of Indianapolis.
They really were one of the organizations, one of the groups that I was working with that kept me focused, that really gave me that sense of what I'm doing and what I was doing at the time and continue to do made a difference, was important, but also reminded me that it wasn't the end-all be-all.
I'm proud of the work that I do in mental health crisis, but I'm really proud of Domestic Violence Network. I would say of the special projects that I've been fortunate to be involved with, DVN is right up there at the top.
We used to say back then, because there were payphones back then and it only cost a quarter, that if a person had a quarter and 5 minutes to make a call, how far in the service delivery system would they get? We weren't going to be satisfied until we knew we had a system in place that would meet their needs in that moment.
The Domestic Violence Network has been in existence for 20 years, and we could not do it without our community members' support. Thank you to everyone who has been a part of this in the past, present, and future.